Welcome to my channel, Vintage Glam. I'm your host, Yvonne. In today's episode, I'm covering Victoria's Secret, the difference in business and creative styles between its original founder, Roy Raymond, and the man who later took over Victoria's Secret, Les Wexner. While I was doing research for my Fredericks of Hollywood episode, I came across the early Victoria's Secret catalogs from the Roy Raymond era. I was struck by the lingerie, the styling of the models, the photography, in essence, the whole vibe. I was obsessed. The early era of this brand felt much more daring and artistic than the corporate juggernaut I was familiar with. Roy Raymond was an MBA graduate from Stanford Business School in the late 1970s. One day he went out to buy lingerie as a present for his wife, Gay. He went to a local shop and found the offerings were drab and uninspiring, and the women behind the counter treated him as if he were a creep. After this experience, Roy had the idea to create a lingerie shop that was elegant and upscale, a sophisticated setting where men could shop for their wives and girlfriends, as opposed to the sleazier shops of that time, like Fredericks of Hollywood and trashy lingerie. Roy put together $80,000, a combination of savings and loans from friends and family, to launch his own lingerie business. The store was intended to evoke the Victorian era, furnished with oriental rugs, dark woods, Tiffany lamps, and silk drapes. He called the shop Victoria's Secret for the woman who was outwardly refined but kept her secrets hidden underneath. His concept worked. In the first year, Victoria's Secret had $500,000 in sales. Roy quickly opened 3 more stores and launched the first edition of his iconic catalog. Despite the company having $4 million in annual sales, Roy was having trouble dealing with the financial end of the business. Suppliers went unpaid, warehouses sat empty, and his efforts to find investors for expansion were futile. This is when Les Wexner enters the Victoria's Secret story. At the time Roy encountered Wexner, he was already a successful businessman in the fashion industry. Wexner was born into the rag trade. His parents owned a dress shop in Ohio called Leslie's, which was named after him. He opened his first store in 1963 called The Limited. His store concept was based off the limited stock of moderately priced women's sportswear. Soon after, Wexner adopted a more European fashion point of view. At that time, fashion was still dictated in Europe, then migrated to the coastal cities of America, finally making their way to the Midwest. Les didn't wait for the trends to come to him. He went straight to the source and made frequent buying trips to Europe. As a result, he developed a knitwear line for college-age women called Forenza. This knit line put The Limited on the map. This success allowed him to establish and streamline his own manufacturing and supply chains. The streamlined supply chain would become a key factor in successfully launching his subsequent brands. Another key factor was the emergence and growth of the suburban malls. Les recognized this new phenomenon as an opportunity to expand The Limited's footprint. He was cementing his status in the retail space. By 1979, Les was operating 318 stores across the country. Wexner started thinking about acquiring a lingerie brand. On a visit to San Francisco, he noticed Raymond's Victoria's Secret shop. Les thought the store was a little bawdy, but he recognized the untapped potential in the concept. In 1982, Wexner bought Victoria's Secret from Raymond for a reported $4 million. After Wexner purchased the company, Roy stayed on to help, but ultimately he left the company in 1983 due to creative differences. Wexner's business strategy was very different than Roy's. He decided the brand should be built from a woman's point of view. Wexner created a new brand origin story. The revamped story claimed the company was named after a French-English woman named Victoria. She was 36 years old and married to an English barrister. She had a French mother who encouraged her to develop her soul, passions, and femininity. Wexner gave Victoria a home address in London, which appeared in a promotional film and in the catalogs. From this moment on, every decision the company made was based on what Victoria would do. The look of the catalogs also reflected this new direction. The pictorials changed, the models appeared more polished and sophisticated. The retail stores changed as well, to softer, brighter, more feminine environments. These changes created an inviting atmosphere for women to enjoy shopping for their lingerie. Wexner's changes to Victoria's Secret didn't stop there. He cut ties to the high-end vendors that Roy had been working with, such as Dior, Lanvin, Hanro, and Guy Larouche. These were replaced with in-house designs using his existing production and supply chains from the Limited. These changes made it easy for him to scale up the business. He also added women's apparel and swimsuits to the brand. Within 10 years, Wexner grew Victoria's Secret to over $500 million in annual sales. He also expanded the retail footprint to over 600 stores. After leaving Victoria's Secret, Roy Raymond's business ventures were in stark contrast to Wexner's success. Roy opened an upscale children's store in San Francisco's Union Square called My Child's Destiny. Once again, the store concept was based on an elegant shopping experience. He figured that imported clothing and quality toys would be a great attraction for the growing number of professional couples who had the income to buy the very best for their new baby. The store encountered problems with its perception. Many shoppers felt the store was elitist, and they couldn't afford to shop there. Professional women also tended to drop out of the workforce to care for their first child. This reduced the income that a family had available to spend on imported luxuries. The store's location didn't attract the heavy foot traffic that Roy had envisioned. Even though it was positioned near a Saks Fifth Avenue and a Neiman Marcus, after 2 years, My Child's Destiny went out of business. Roy's next business concept was a children's bookstore called Quimby's. It was financially backed by Diane Disney Miller and her husband Ron, the former chief executive of Walt Disney. The Millers didn't approve of Roy's spending habits, and in less than 2 years, Roy left. Roy's final business was a boutique concept that sold wigs and apparel to women who were undergoing chemotherapy, but he failed to find any investors. After all these personal and professional setbacks, Roy committed suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge in 1993. The success of Victoria's Secret under Wexner continued to grow. The company introduced groundbreaking products such as the Miracle Bra and the Fantasy Bra. Wexner televised the Victoria's Secret runway shows, putting together the famous models/global ambassadors, known as the Victoria's Secret Angels. Wexner's retail empire L brands expanded to include the Limited, Abercrombie & Fitch, Bath & Body Works, and also a teen offshoot brand of Victoria's Secret called Pink. Despite his huge success, Wexner's reputation was tarnished by his close involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein, Wexner's money manager, was convicted of sex trafficking of underage girls. This is obviously a gigantic story, and if you want more details, I recommend the documentary Angels and Demons. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe.